Scary doorbell camera footage. You never know who or what might be lurking outside your front door. Most of us install security cameras to feel safer, but sometimes, those cameras capture things far more disturbing than we're prepared for. From masked intruders to mysterious strangers with chilling intentions, here are some of the most terrifying encounters ever caught on doorbell cameras. 1. The silent visitor. It was a quiet night in a suburban neighborhood just past 2 a.m. when a homeowner's phone buzzed with a motion alert. Expecting to see nothing but a stray cat or a car driving by, the homeowner opened the app, but what he saw froze him in place. A tall, thin figure stood at his front door. The stranger wore a featureless white mask that covered his entire face. He didn't knock. He didn't ring the doorbell. He just stood there, staring. For 5 minutes, the masked man remained motionless, shifting only slightly as if he were listening, waiting. And then, without a sound, he reached into his coat, pulled out a crowbar, and tried the door handle. Fortunately, the door was locked, but the stranger wasn't finished. He leaned closer to the camera, tilting his head in an unnatural way before whispering, "I know you're home." Just as the homeowner dialed 911, the masked man slipped back into the shadows. Despite the police arriving minutes later, he was never found. And what's even stranger? Over the next few weeks, multiple neighbors reported similar visits, each one describing a man in a white mask who only appeared between 2 and 3 a.m. And no one knew why. 2. The unknown passenger. In the fall of 2022, a rideshare driver finished his last drop-off for the night and returned home around 4 a.m. Exhausted, he parked in his driveway and headed inside without realizing he wasn't alone. At 4:17 a.m., his doorbell camera captured a shadow moving near his car. A man wearing a hooded jacket emerged from the darkness and circled the vehicle, checking the doors. When he found them locked, he did something even more unsettling. He leaned against the driver's side window and just stood there. Minutes passed, and the stranger didn't move. He didn't attempt to break in or leave. Instead, he seemed fixated on the interior, as if searching for something. At one point, he even pressed his face against the window, peering inside. And then, without warning, he straightened up, looked directly into the doorbell camera, and smiled. When the police arrived, they discovered no signs of forced entry, but there was something strange in the backseat of the car. A single playing card, a joker, left perfectly placed on the seat. The driver swore he had never seen it before, and to this day, no one knows who the stranger was or why he left that card behind. 3. The man in the basement. In January 2023, a young woman living alone started to notice strange noises beneath her floor. At first, she dismissed it as the house settling, but things quickly became much more disturbing. One night, she received a doorbell notification just past midnight, but when she checked the camera, no one was there. This happened again and again, always at the same time. Finally, after weeks of unexplained alerts, she contacted a maintenance worker to inspect the crawl space beneath her home. What he found was nothing short of terrifying. In the farthest corner of the crawl space was a small sleeping bag, an empty water bottle, and a collection of personal items that didn't belong to her. Someone had been living there for weeks. The most chilling part? When they reviewed the camera footage from that night, they noticed something they hadn't seen before: a faint movement from a basement window. A shadowy figure, barely visible, watching her house from below. The police were called, but by the time they arrived, the intruder was gone. To this day, the woman has no idea how long he had been living beneath her feet or if he ever planned to return. 4. The stranger in the storm. In October 2021, a fierce thunderstorm rolled through a quiet town, cutting power to an entire neighborhood. A couple, alone in their home, settled in for the night, unaware of the danger just outside. At 2:45 a.m., their battery-powered doorbell camera caught a man walking up the driveway. He was soaking wet, his hair clinging to his face as he staggered toward the door. At first, they assumed he was someone seeking shelter from the storm, but as he drew closer, it became clear something wasn't right. He wasn't wearing shoes, his clothes were torn, and his hands were stained with what appeared to be mud or something else. The man knocked 3 times, each one louder than the last, before whispering through the door, "Let me in. I need to get inside." When the homeowners didn't respond, the man grew more agitated, pacing back and forth and muttering to himself. He then pulled something from his jacket, a long, rusted knife and held it against the doorframe. By the time police arrived, the man was nowhere to be found. But the most chilling discovery came the next morning. Just a mile down the road, another home had been broken into, the occupants missing. And all that was left behind was a wet pair of footprints leading away into the woods.